They don't want you to know this. I've seen it with my own eyes. Proof of something so terrifying about Eminem that they'll do anything to keep it hidden. It's not just a rumor, not just a conspiracy. It's real, and I have the evidence. I've been holding onto this truth for far too long, but it's time you heard it. There's a double. Not a twin, not a lookalike, but someone who's been taking his place, moving in the shadows. And what I'm about to tell you, what I've witnessed, will make you question everything you think you know about him. It starts with one simple question. Who is the real Eminem? I've been holding this in for far too long. It's been eating me alive, and I can't carry it anymore. I'm finally gonna say it. I've seen something that no one is supposed to know. Something about Eminem. A truth so ugly, so chilling that it will ruin everything you think you know about him. It's not just a rumor. It's not some fan theory. I've seen it. I've witnessed it firsthand. And what's worse, I have proof. But even with the proof, I know there's no going back from this. This is something that will change everything. Something I shouldn't have gotten involved in. But now, I can't keep quiet. I'm not crazy. I'm sure of what I saw. I've spent years in this industry, always just a step behind the stars, watching them from the shadows. But this was different. This wasn't just seeing a celebrity up close, shaking hands with them, exchanging pleasantries. Number. This was something more. Something darker. This all started a few months ago at a show in a city you wouldn't expect. It wasn't a big tour stop, just a smaller, more intimate venue. But it didn't feel right from the moment I arrived. The usual buzzing excitement in the air was missing. Something about the whole atmosphere felt off. Almost as if the energy had been drained from the room before I even stepped foot inside. I remember walking through the back hallways, a place I'd been countless times before. The dim lights, the hum of distant music bleeding through the walls. Everything was familiar, but something wasn't. A tightness in my chest that I couldn't shake, like the air itself had thickened. I passed the usual security, the staff, everyone going about their business like everything was normal. But as I walked deeper into the venue, it felt like I was stepping into a different world, one I wasn't supposed to see. And then I saw him. Eminem. But it wasn't the Eminem I thought I knew. You've seen him 100 times, right? The tattoos, the bleached blonde hair, the angry, defiant expression. That's what I was expecting. But what I saw, it was him, yes, but not him. His eyes were too cold, too vacant. The sharpness in his movements felt mechanical. And the way he was looking around, it wasn't like the usual confidence you expect from him. It was more like a man who had been told what to do for so long that he didn't even know how to move without someone guiding him. I tried to shake it off, thinking maybe I was just tired. Maybe the long hours were catching up to me, but I couldn't. It was like my skin was crawling just being near him. I stayed close, keeping my distance but watching closely. I needed to know if it was just me, or if something was really wrong. Then I saw it, another version of him, a shadow of a man who looked exactly like him. But this wasn't just a look-alike. No, it was him. The same person, only different. This one was more human, more aware, more alive. The way he moved, the way he spoke, even the way he interacted with people, it was different. It was real. But this other version of him, it was like he was just a shell, a copy, a hollow version. And that's when I knew there was something going on here. Something that had been hidden from the world for far too long. I didn't know what it was at first, but I knew something was wrong. I knew that the man I had been following all these years, Eminem, wasn't who he appeared to be. He wasn't just a rap legend. There was a darkness surrounding him, one that had been carefully constructed, buried beneath layers of fame and success. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to go down this path, but I couldn't unsee what I had just witnessed. The questions kept flooding my mind. Who was that other man? What was he doing there? Was this some sort of stunt? A bizarre publicity move? Or was it something more sinister? As I walked away from that moment, I felt a chill that settled in my bones, one that never quite left. I thought about the people I had seen him with earlier, his entourage, his manager, all those familiar faces. They were watching. They knew. And that's when it hit me. I had been looking at him all wrong. The Eminem I thought I knew wasn't just a man anymore. He was a persona, a construct, a carefully maintained image designed for the world to see. But who was the real Eminem? What was hiding underneath? I couldn't tell you exactly what I felt at that moment, but it was a strange mix of dread and excitement. I didn't want to be involved in this. I didn't want to peel back the layers and see what lay beneath, but I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't forget it. The questions burned through me like wildfire. And it wasn't just the look-alike, it was the way they interacted. The way they looked at each other like they were both part of the same puzzle, like they were pieces to a whole that no one was supposed to see. I spent the next few days digging, asking questions, listening carefully, and that's when the whispers started. Whispers of something bigger than a simple double. Whispers of a well-oiled machine, a system in place that had been running for years, keeping the real Eminem hidden, kept away from the public. I found the first hint in the footage I pulled from backstage. Just a small piece, but enough to make my stomach drop. It was a video of the two versions of him together, laughing, talking, interacting as if it were nothing. But you could see the difference, the one that wasn't alive, that wasn't real. He was always just a little bit behind, like he was mimicking the others, every movement, every word. But that wasn't even the worst part. No, the worst part came later. I dug deeper. I found the contracts, the papers that confirmed what I had been fearing. This wasn't some stunt. This wasn't some clever marketing. This was part of a carefully controlled operation. They had been swapping him out for years, using his double to do everything from appearances to interviews. I tried to tell people. I tried to show them what I had found. But the deeper I went, the more I realized they knew. And they didn't want anyone to know the truth. I thought I could walk away, pretend like I never saw it. But now I'm trapped. They're watching me. They know I've seen it. And there's no going back. There's no turning away from this. I don't know how far this goes, but I do know one thing. If they can do this to Eminem, if they can hide him, who else are they hiding? What other faces are out there being swapped, being controlled? I know too much now. I've seen the cracks in the system, but I can't just walk away. Not now. I'm too far in. And so are you. And now, you have to know. You have to see the truth for yourself. Because once you do, nothing will ever be the same. I stepped through the door, the sound of the handle turning just a little too loud in the otherwise still air. At first, everything seems perfectly ordinary. Too ordinary. There's a polished gleam to the floor tiles beneath my shoes, the kind of shine that suggests someone's been here, keeping things in check, keeping things perfect. The faint smell of freshly brewed coffee lingers in the air, mixed with the sterile scent of the backstage area. The room feels warm, inviting, and almost too clean. Like it's been meticulously maintained for years. Familiar, yet just off. The walls are adorned with a few framed posters of past shows, but they don't seem to capture the energy of the place. They're too staged, too perfectly aligned, as if they were put there to hide something, or perhaps distract from something else. The lighting is bright, but not too harsh, just soft enough to make the space feel lived in, but not enough to make you feel seen. I take a step forward, my shoes making a soft click on the hard floor. It's an unassuming sound, one that should be swallowed by the silence of the room, but for some reason, it lingers. A beat too long, like a hesitation. I try not to let it bother me. Everything's fine, or at least that's what I tell myself. I glance around, noting the furniture, simple chairs, a couple of couches, but nothing that stands out. There's a small table in the corner holding a stack of papers that look oddly untouched. Maybe I expected more clutter, more signs of life, of movement. Instead, it's almost like everything is placed exactly where it should be. Just enough to seem real. But there's a certain precision to it. The kind of precision that feels unnatural. The air is still, too still. Not a whisper of breeze from the vents, no hum of machinery in the background. It's as if the room is holding its breath, waiting for something. And I feel it, that weight pressing down on me. It's just a space, right? A normal backstage area before the show. But the longer I stand here, the more I feel the tension building, thickening around me. A door in the corner of the room swings open with a soft creak, and for a moment, I wonder if I've been holding my breath without realizing it. I start walking toward it. The sound of my footsteps echoes through the room, too loud for comfort. The door opens to what looks like a small dressing area, a simple space with a large mirror mounted on the wall, soft lighting casting a faint glow. But something about the reflection seems wrong. It's not the mirror itself. It's clear and unbroken, but the image in it. For a split second, the figure standing before it isn't quite right. The way the light hits the face, the sharpness in the eyes. It doesn't belong. But it's gone as quickly as it appears, and I try to tell myself it's nothing. Just a trick of the light. Just my imagination. I shift my weight uncomfortably, forcing my body to relax, trying to shake off the unease settling in the pit of my stomach. I turn away from the mirror and step deeper into the room. The floor beneath me still too perfect, too smooth. There's a low hum now, a noise just on the edge of hearing, like the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. But there are no fluorescent lights in this room. It's just a quiet hum, almost like static, and I can't tell if it's coming from my own mind or from something deeper within the space. I can feel the hairs on the back of my neck prickling. The room is too quiet, too controlled. It's as if someone is waiting for me, watching me. Every movement feels too calculated, every gesture too intentional. I'm not sure what's wrong, but I know something is. The soft, rhythmic tapping of a distant footstep reaches my ears and I freeze. It's faint, barely perceptible at first, but as I focus on it, it grows louder, almost as if someone's walking toward me. The sound is strange, unsettling, too deliberate, too slow. My heart picks up a little, the pulse in my throat quickening. I stand still for a moment, unsure if I should continue forward or retreat. But there's nowhere to go. I'm already too deep in this, too far past the point of no return. The footstep stops. For a long beat, everything is silent again. Then, the air shifts, just slightly, but enough to make the tension in my chest grow heavier. I'm not alone here. I can feel it now. I move toward the far side of the room, the door behind me still ajar. I don't look back, but I can hear the faintest rustle of fabric, the subtle shift of something, someone moving just out of view. The door swings open a little wider, as if inviting me in. The invitation is almost too clean, too perfect. There's a sense of precision to it, something methodical, but I can't put my finger on why it feels wrong. I step into the next space, still feeling like I'm being drawn forward by something I can't see. The lights flicker as I pass beneath them, but the flicker is too quick, too sharp, almost like they're trying to signal me, warning me of something. But what? The edges of the room blur just slightly as I move, like the shadows aren't quite where they should be, and I swear the air feels heavier now. A voice breaks through the stillness, low and steady, and my body freezes. I don't recognize it, not at first. I turn toward the source, but there's no one there. Just the empty space, the stillness hanging in the air like a cloud. The voice is gone, but the echo of it lingers, pulling at the edges of my mind. For a moment, everything goes still. My heart is pounding in my chest now, and the sense of unease is unbearable. But I'm standing there, stuck between the familiarity of the space and the undeniable sense that something isn't quite right. Something is out of place, and it's getting harder to ignore. I force myself to keep moving, to push forward, even though every instinct inside of me is telling me to turn back. I can't help but feel that if I stop now, if I let myself fall into this disquiet, I'll miss the answers I've been looking for. But what am I looking for? The truth? Or just the courage to face whatever I've already found? I don't know how much time has passed when I reach the end of the hallway. The door at the far end is cracked open, and the light spilling through it looks almost inviting. But the closer I get, the more I feel like I'm walking toward something, waiting. And when I reach it, the door swings open on its own, revealing a figure standing in the dim light. For just a moment, everything stops. I don't know who it is, but I feel the weight of their gaze, and it's like they've been waiting for me. Waiting for me to come forward, to see what they've been hiding. I take a breath, and before I can move, I hear it again. That low, almost imperceptible voice, and this time, it's clear. It's my name. As I walked deeper into the space, the comfort I'd felt at first began to dissolve. It wasn't anything specific at first, just a shift, like the atmosphere was thickening around me, pressing in a little more with every step. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, but I told myself it was nothing. It was just the excitement of being backstage, the tension of anticipation before a show. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. Something was off. I moved past the staff as they worked, their motions fluid, practiced, too practiced, like they were following a script. They barely looked up as I passed, No one said anything. No one smiled in a way that felt real. Their faces were calm, cold, but their eyes didn't meet mine. It was as if they were avoiding me, not in a rude way, but in a way that felt deliberate, the kind of avoidance that isn't accidental. Then I saw her. She was sitting on one of the couches near the door to the main room, flipping through a magazine. A guest, I assume. She was dressed in all black, her eyes hidden behind large, dark sunglasses. Even though the lighting in the room wasn't harsh, she had an air of being too composed, too still for someone waiting for a show to start. When I passed by her, our eyes met for a fraction of a second, just long enough for me to notice something strange in her gaze, calculating, almost as if she was sizing me up. There was no smile, no acknowledgement of my presence, but she didn't look away either. Her eyes locked onto mine in a way that made my stomach tighten. I looked away first, telling myself that I was reading too much into it. But as I continued down the hallway, I couldn't shake the feeling that her stare had lingered longer than it should have. It wasn't just the look, it was the way she held herself, perfectly still, like she wasn't waiting for the show, but waiting for something else, something I wasn't supposed to see, something that didn't belong. I shook it off, pushing forward, determined to focus on the task at hand. But the hallway felt colder now, the temperature noticeably lower, like a draft had swept through. I glanced around, seeing no visible change, yet the cold crept up my spine. As I passed by another door, I noticed it was locked. At first, I didn't think much of it, but then I saw the keycard slot next to the door, a red light blinking as if it was being monitored. I paused for a second, eyeing the door. It didn't look like anything special, just another nondescript room. But there was something about it, something that tugged at me. It was too clean, too empty. The others were buzzing with activity, getting ready for the show. But this room was different. It stood alone in the hall, isolated, shut off from everything else. I walked closer, almost involuntarily, my fingers brushing against the cool metal of the door. The silence around it felt heavy. I wasn't sure why, but it felt like it held something I wasn't supposed to know. I turned away, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Why was this room locked? I kept walking, my footsteps loud against the floor now, echoing in the empty space. The place was too quiet, almost too perfect, and the unease that had been building in my chest seemed to grow stronger with every turn I made. The air felt thick, suffocating, like I was moving through something more than just space. Like I was moving through a well-designed illusion. As I approached the dressing room, I saw the staff moving more frantically now, but something in their movement still felt wrong. Too fast, too rehearsed, as if they were trying to stay ahead of something they knew was coming. They never looked me in the eye, just their heads down, bodies tense. It didn't sit right with me. The closer I got to the room, the more I felt it. The faint sound of murmured voices, too quiet to make out. I paused for a second at the threshold, not wanting to intrude, but not wanting to miss anything either. The voices were coming from behind the closed door, and they sounded strange. Not the usual pre-show banter or small talk you'd expect backstage. These were clipped, almost too controlled, too calm. It felt like a performance, but not for the audience. It felt like they were rehearsing something else. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me, and I pushed the door open just a crack. I immediately regretted it. The room was dimly lit, the shadows too deep for the small amount of light filtering through. The celebrity, the real one, or at least the one I assumed was real, was standing in front of a mirror. His face was expressionless, his eyes dull, but something about him felt off. His movements were jerky, like he was following a script but didn't know how to make it look natural. There was a subtle shift in the room when he looked up, like the air had been sucked out for a moment. His gaze met mine through the crack in the door, and for a moment, I froze. He didn't smile, didn't speak, just looked at me, and there was something in his eyes that I can't explain. It was as if he knew something, or worse, as if he was waiting for something. Before I could react, the door slammed shut, and I jumped back, my heart hammering in my chest. I heard footsteps retreating, soft and quick. The door had been shut so suddenly, so deliberately. I couldn't even tell if anyone else had seen me standing there. But it didn't matter. Something had changed. The air felt even heavier now, thicker with something I couldn't name. I moved down the hallway quickly, trying to shake the feeling that was clawing at my chest. The locked room, the strange look from the guest, the way the celebrity had looked at me, like he knew I shouldn't be here. As I made my way down the hall, I heard the faintest sound, a creak, as if something heavy had shifted. I turned, and the door to the locked room was open now, just a sliver. The red light above the keycard slot was still blinking, but it was different somehow. The room behind it was darker than I remembered, but I couldn't see well enough to make anything out. I stared at the crack in the door, feeling the weight of it pressing down on me. I didn't go closer. I couldn't. Instead, I turned and walked away. But my steps felt heavier now, slower, as if the room had just swallowed a piece of me. And I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had just happened, whatever I had seen, was just the beginning. There was more, so much more, and I wasn't sure I was ready to know what it was, but I had to. There was no turning back now. Something shifted, a subtle change, like the air in the room had thickened and become harder to breathe. I felt it before I could put it into words. Something was wrong. The walls, the lights, the people, they were all there, just as they had been before. But everything felt off, like I was standing at the edge of something I couldn't quite grasp, something too deep to understand yet too close to escape. I had walked down the hallway 100 times, but tonight, the place felt different, as if the shadows had grown deeper, swallowing up the edges of the space, distorting everything just enough to make it feel unnatural. It wasn't something I could explain, but the feeling lingered in my chest, heavy, suffocating. I told myself I was just overthinking it. The guest's strange look, the locked door, the celebrity's odd, distant behavior. All of it could have been coincidence, right? Maybe I was just imagining things, reading too much into the small stuff. But as I moved deeper into space, I knew something was very wrong. It wasn't a loud moment. It wasn't some grand, obvious event. But it happened. And once it did, I couldn't unsee it. I walked past the dressing room again, the door still ajar, though this time it felt more like an invitation than a simple oversight. The light was dim inside, a soft, almost sickly glow spilling out into the hall. It should have felt comforting, soothing even, but it didn't. It felt wrong, as if the light itself was drained, like it wasn't coming from a regular bulb, but from something that had no place being there. Something unnatural. I stood there for a moment, watching the small flicker of light bounce off the polished floor. The air felt thicker here, like it was heavier with the secrets the room was holding. I wanted to turn away, walk back down the hallway, forget everything. But I didn't. My feet moved without me, pulling me closer to the door. I couldn't help it. I had to know. I stepped inside. The room wasn't much different from what I expected. Standard backstage, the usual items, a couch, a table, some framed photos of past performances. But this time, there was something new, something strange. A chair in the corner, angled just slightly toward the mirror, but not enough to be comfortable. It wasn't where it should have been. It felt like it was placed there on purpose. A purposeful disarrangement, an oddness to it. But that wasn't what stopped me. What stopped me was what I saw in the mirror. I blinked, my eyes unable to focus for a second, but when they cleared, the reflection stared back at me, and it wasn't me. I froze, the air in my lungs locking up. The figure in the mirror wasn't me, but it was standing there, right behind me. I could feel it. A shadow, tall and motionless, with its hands pressed to the mirror as if trying to escape from inside it. I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred again. The shadow wasn't mine. It couldn't be. The posture was wrong, too stiff, too unnatural. And the face didn't look like me. It was almost like a mask, familiar, but just enough off to make me question if what I was seeing was even real. I didn't move. I couldn't. I wasn't sure if I was staring at myself or if something was staring back at me. Something that didn't belong here. I swallowed, trying to shake the fear gnawing at me. It was just the lighting. It had to be. But when I turned around, the room was still empty. Nothing but the chair, the table, and the dim glow of the light. I blinked rapidly, my hands shaking as I slowly backed away from the mirror. But then I heard it. The soft click of a door closing. I spun, heart hammering in my chest, but the hallway was empty. The room felt smaller now. The walls seemed to close in, and the temperature dropped, sharp, cold. A chill that ran through me like ice crawling down my spine. My breaths came quicker, more shallow. The more I stood there, the more I felt the weight of the space press in on me. The door, the strange figure. I had to get out. I couldn't stay here. Not another second. I turned to leave, but my hand caught on the edge of the door frame. And that's when I heard it. A whisper. Not a voice I recognized. At first it was so faint, I thought I imagined it. But then it grew louder, clearer. A voice, soft but demanding. I pressed my ear to the door frame, barely breathing. It wasn't anyone talking, at least not in the way I understood. It wasn't a conversation, just a low murmur, a static sound. My hand gripped tighter on the doorframe, but I couldn't pull myself away. I leaned closer, and that's when the whispering stopped. I swear it stopped the moment my ear touched the wood. The sudden silence hit me harder than the whisper had, like the absence of sound was more dangerous than anything else. But then, something caught my eye. The reflection in the window. I turned slowly. And just as I expected, the figure was still there. Only now it was closer, just out of reach. But it was moving, its hand slowly pressing against the mirror. No, against the glass that wasn't there. My pulse spiked. I could feel the pressure of something dark closing in around me. It wasn't right. None of it was right. The door opened without a sound, and I almost stumbled backward, but there was no one standing there, no one in sight. It wasn't the kind of entrance you expect. No one walked in, no footsteps. It just opened. I wasn't alone in this room anymore. I stepped back, my body tense, every part of me telling me to run, but I couldn't leave. Not yet. I was so close to something. The tension in the room was suffocating, and I knew deep down I was crossing a line. I shouldn't be here, but I had to know. What had I seen? What was happening here? I forced myself to leave, my body aching to escape, but my feet wouldn't move fast enough. My thoughts were racing, but every step toward the door only made me feel more lost. Like I was walking further into the dark, further away from the truth I thought I knew. I pushed through the door and back into the hallway, only to stop in my tracks. The locked door was now wide open. I hadn't heard a thing. No sound of keys, no click of a lock. Just open, wide and empty, like it had been waiting for me. I stared at the doorway, feeling the air around me thicken. There was no turning back now. Something was waiting inside, and I had to know what it was. The moment the door creaked open, I felt my heart stop. The room was dark, colder than it should have been. The air felt heavier, saturated with something that wasn't quite fear, but something darker, something far more insidious. I should have known better than to walk in, should have turned back when the hair on the back of my neck started to prickle, but my legs moved of their own accord, dragging me deeper into the shadows of this place that had begun to suffocate me. I stepped inside, and the world around me began to shift. It was subtle at first, like a distortion in the air, but as soon as the door clicked shut behind me, it became impossible to ignore. The walls seemed to lean in, the ceiling low and oppressively close. My breathing, slow and shallow, felt louder than the space around me. The sound of my pulse in my ears was almost deafening, like everything I had known was being drowned out by the silence until there was nothing but the roar of my own fear. But there was something else, too, something new. I was no longer alone in this room. I could feel it. I could sense it, but I couldn't see it. I tried to steady myself, tried to push back against the rising panic, but I couldn't. The room was too quiet, too still. The reflection in the mirror on the far wall shimmered, but it wasn't me I saw. At least, not completely. There was something wrong about it. My reflection was staring at me, but there was no me in it. No, it wasn't my reflection at all. The face in the mirror was an imposter. It was me, but not me. It was a version of me that I didn't recognize, one that had something twisted in its expression, something unnatural. I could see my reflection smiling at me, but the eyes, those eyes, didn't hold anything I recognized. They were dead, hollow, like the soul had been drained from them, leaving behind only the shell of who I used to be. A chill ran down my spine, but I couldn't look away. I tried to move, tried to turn my body, but the reflection didn't follow. It stayed fixed in place, watching me, waiting. I could feel the weight of its gaze pressing on me, sinking deeper and deeper into my skin. It felt like it was pulling me in, forcing me to see something that wasn't supposed to be real. It isn't real, I told myself. It's just the light, just a trick of the mind. But as I stood there, my legs refusing to move, I heard the faintest whisper, a voice that came from nowhere, so soft it almost blended with the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. It didn't make sense. It didn't sound like anything I had ever heard before. It was my name. It was a voice that didn't belong to me. It wasn't mine, but it knew me. The whisper lingered in the air like smoke, twisting and curling around my mind, pulling me deeper into the haze. The more I tried to focus, the more the room began to shift. It wasn't just my reflection that was wrong now. The walls were closing in, the floor beneath me tilting ever so slightly, just enough to make me question my own balance. I stumbled back, my hands pressing against the cool, slick surface of the wall to steady myself. My fingers brushed against something soft, something damp. I looked down, but there was nothing there. The air was thick with the smell of something burning, something foul, but I couldn't pinpoint where it was coming from. My head spun, and for a moment, I thought I might fall, but I couldn't move. My body refused to obey, as if something was holding me in place, locking me within this distorted space. My pulse quickened, and the air grew heavier, thick with the weight of unspoken words. I finally tore my gaze away from the mirror, but the reflection didn't stop. It followed me. My own face, that hollow, twisted version of me, still smiled, still stared with eyes that were not my own. I could feel the reflection reaching for me, trying to pull me back in, trying to drag me into whatever this was. Then something moved. It was a soft shuffle at first, but then louder, like something or someone was moving closer. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to stretch and crawl, as though the very walls themselves were alive, shifting to surround me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The air had become thick, suffocating, pushing in on me from all sides. The door behind me. I had to get to it. I had to leave. But as I turned toward the door, the shadows followed me. I saw something. Just a glimpse. A figure standing in the doorway, blocking the exit. It wasn't human. It was too tall, its limbs long and stretched, its head too still, too unnaturally straight. The figure stood motionless, watching me with eyes that I couldn't see but felt. The whispering grew louder, more frantic. It wasn't just my name anymore. It was calling me, pleading with me. The voice had turned sharp, jagged, breaking in places like something was struggling to break through. I stepped back, the terror seizing me in an iron grip. I reached for the door, my fingers trembling, but as I touched the handle, the figure in the doorway moved. It took a single, slow step toward me, then another. Each movement was too deliberate, too controlled, like it knew exactly how to keep me in place. The figure's eyes, dark and endless, bored me. I couldn't look away. You shouldn't have come here. The voice, though distant, was unmistakable. It was mine, but not. It was twisted, warped, like an echo of something that shouldn't have been said. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. Then, everything went silent. For one long, agonizing second, there was nothing. Not a whisper, not a sound. The room had stopped shifting. The figure had stopped moving. The air, once heavy and thick, cleared. But it was worse. It was worse than before. I didn't know who I was anymore. The mirror, the door, the voice, the figure. It was all connected, all twisted together in a way I couldn't explain. My reality had started to crack, and I could feel the pieces slipping away. I opened the door. The hallway was empty, quiet. But I knew it was too late. The cracks were already there, and they weren't going to stop. I heard the whisper again, but this time, it wasn't from the room. It was behind me, right in my ear. "You've already seen too much." I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Something in me broke. Something inside me snapped. And as I stood there, frozen in the doorway, I knew, with terrifying certainty, that this was just the beginning. Something much darker was coming, and I was already too deep to escape. The moment I stepped into the hallway, the cold hit me like a slap, sinking into my bones. My breath came in ragged gasps, and I stumbled forward, unsure where I was going, but I knew I had to escape. The door was still open behind me, its pull almost magnetic. I couldn't look back. My heart pounded violently, and my mind was reeling. I wasn't sure if I was running or if my legs were moving on their own, but I couldn't escape fast enough. It was in my head now, wrapping around my thoughts, pulling me back to that thing in the room. The shadows had seemed too real, the whispers and distorted reflection in the mirror. Impossible, but true. I couldn't stop watching it. I leaned against the wall, my hands trembling. My body screamed, but no sound came out. I couldn't think. I stumbled forward, unsure of where I was going, and then whispered again. It wasn't my voice. It was all around me, in the walls and the shadows. "You shouldn't have come here." I froze, blood running cold. My chest tightened, and I felt the walls closing in. I turned a corner, but the whisper followed, growing louder, closer. "You shouldn't have seen it." The words echoed in my head as my pulse raced. I couldn't see anyone, but I could feel it. Something lurking just out of sight, watching me, waiting. I started running, the fear making my legs move faster. The hallway stretched on, corner after corner, yet it felt like I was going nowhere. The shadows grew darker. The whisper was now right behind me. I reached the door I had left open earlier, but now it was shut, locked. I didn't hear anyone. There was no sound at all. My heart pounded, and I froze, my legs refusing to move. I wanted to scream, to run, but my voice wouldn't come. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The terror was suffocating, thick and heavy, like I was breathing underwater. Then I heard it again. The whisper, louder now. "You shouldn't have seen it." I stumbled back, falling to the cold floor, my palms scraping against the tiles. But it was no use. I couldn't escape. I had seen something terrible. The reflection, the figure, the voice, it was all connected, and I couldn't make sense of it. I looked up, my vision blurred with tears. The hallway was still, too still, and then the door opened by itself. My body screamed to run, but I couldn't move. I knew I couldn't stay, but I couldn't leave either. I forced myself to my feet and bolted toward the exit. My legs shook with every step, my heart ready to burst. But I didn't stop. Not until I reached the door, bursting into the cold night air. But the relief I expected never came. The terror was still there, in my chest, in my bones, in the darkness behind me. It hadn't left. As I ran, the whisper followed. Quiet at first, but growing louder with every step. You shouldn't have seen it. I couldn't shake the feeling. I wasn't going to escape it. I don't know how to stop it. The whispers haven't stopped. Every time I close my eyes, I hear them faint but persistent, like they're waiting for me to acknowledge them. They followed me, and I can't escape. It's not just in my head anymore. I feel it. The shadow, the reflection. Him, they're always there, lurking just beyond the edge of my vision, in the corner of the room, just behind me. I don't know who I'm running from anymore. I used to think I was looking for answers, but now I know better. There's no escape from this. Not really. You don't walk away from something like that. Once you've seen it, you belong to it. And I know. It's waiting for me to look back, to fall into it. And I don't think I ever really left.